Hello everyone. I welcome you all to find my next lecture. I am Dr. Hariharan, Professor of Biotechnology. So in today's lecture, what we are going to learn is about the southern blotting technique. So in my previous lectures, while we are discussing about the various steps involved in the gene cloning strategy, the fourth step is the identification of the gene of interest. This can be done with only with the southern blotting technique. So today we will go inside the what is the mean by the southern blotting technique, how it has been invented. Then we will see what is mean by the DNA hybridization, that is the southern blotting technique. What is the principle involved in the southern blotting technique, and what are the procedure in practically how we can go about with this southern blotting techniques, and finally what are the various applications of this technique. So we will go one by one. So first we will understand the basic introduction about the discovery of the southern blotting technique. So in 1975, Edwin Southern developed this technique. So Edwin Southern was developed with this technique with an objective that to identify or to detect a specific DNA fragment from a mixture of DNA molecule. That means thereby what we can do is we can identify our gene of interest. This was the core objective of this technique, southern blotting technique. So once we talk about the southern blotting technique, it is otherwise we can call with a common term called as DNA hybridization. So hybridization is nothing but joining together. So if we see, the DNA generally exists in a double stranded form. It carries two strands. While we heat these two strands, what will happen is this double stranded DNA gets denatured and becomes two single stranded DNA. So once if these bases are complementary in nature, then it has an ability to reannul itself. So the DNA hybridization was based on this basic idea that the denatured DNA has the capacity to reannul, that means to reform the base pair between its complementary strands. So the DNA hybridization we can simply define, it is a process of base pairing between the complementary single-stranded DNA, that is polynucleotide, under an appropriate condition of temperature and pH ionic concentration. So will produce this two single-stranded, which is complementary in nature, will become a double-stranded one. This is called as DNA hybridization. So I once again discuss this principle, that is what is meant by DNA hybridization is nothing but it is a process of base pairing between the complementary strands of DNA molecule under an appropriate conditions like temperature and the ionic strength. This is the basic principle of this southern blotting technique. So then we understand the nature, how the southern blotting was working on, what is the principle behind it of this southern blotting technique. So if we consider the principle of southern blotting technique is the same what I told in the DNA hybridization. So in southern blotting technique, if we saw very precisely, the principle is the specificity. This is the specificity of the hybridization between these two complementary strands in the basis of forms the basis of detecting the gene of interest from a complex mixture of different sequence of DNA molecule. So southern blotting technique very precisely helps us to identify the specific DNA, that is the gene of interest, from the mixture of DNA based on the specificity of this hybridization technique. So in this case what we will do is to detect is, so we take one of the strand which is complementary in nature to the gene of interest, will be produced in a lab, either by synthesized or it can be purified from other strands, whatever it may be. It is used as a probe strand which is becomes complementary to the different DNA molecule. So once it gets hybridized, we can identify the gene of interest. It is the simple basic principle of the southern blotting. So this I have explained with a schematic representation how this southern blotting process happens. So if you can see, the first thing what we need is a after isolation of the DNA, we need a restriction mixer. That means the DNA has been cutted with an restriction endonuclease enzyme, then we get a mixture, that is the mixture of various fragments of the DNA strand. Then this restricted mixture is separated with the help of an process called the gel electrophoresis, generally in southern blotting, to identify the gene of interest. Generally this gel electrophoresis is done in duplicate. So one is used for the southern blotting and identification, and the second one is used to take out the DNA, and this can be amplified in a large scale. So the second step is the separation by the gel electrophoresis. After the separation, the single strand should be transferred to a nitrocellulose paper from the gel electrophoresis. This is the basic principle of the southern blotting. So what we are doing is we keep a nitrocellulose paper over the gel, then with the help of some principle of working, we transfer this double stranded DNA, one of its single strand, into the nitrocellulose paper. So we get the nitrocellulose paper with appropriate bands of different separated DNA molecule. Then it is incubated along with a radio labeled probe which is complementary in sequence with the gene of interest. So once we incubate it, the complementary sequence has a tendency to get re-annealed and helps in the identification process. Later on, while we are using this probe DNA generally labeled with a fluorescent dye or a radioactive phosphorus or sulfur, anything. So thereby the detection will be very easily identified of the gene of interest by an autoradiography technique. So I will once again simplify this. How the southern blotting technique works is that, so first we need a restricted mixture of the DNA molecule. Then this restricted mixture should be separated with the help of a gel electrophoresis. Then from this gel, which carries the DNA in double stranded form, one of the strand should be transferred to a nitrocellulose paper. Then the complementary probe DNA, which is radio labeled one, is allowed to anneal with this single stranded DNA present in the nitrocellulose paper. If it is complementary in nature, then this is identified with an autoradiography technique. This is the basic working principle of the southern blotting technique. So next what we are going to study is the procedure. How the southern blotting technique we can perform in a laboratory conditions. So if you see the procedure of the southern blotting, it includes the following steps. So first I will list off the steps, then I will discuss about what is the each steps is all about, how it generally it works. So if you see, the first step is the after the restriction of this DNA, we get the restricted DNA molecule. So the first step is the separation of the DNA by gel electrophoresis, and it is generally done with in duplicate manner. Then after this, one gel is taken and this gel should be pre-treated. After the pre-treatment of the gel, what happened is that one of the DNA of the double stranded DNA, one of the single strand, is transferred to a nitrocellulose paper. This process we call as a blotting. So once we blot into the nitrocellulose paper, what we have to do is the other part should be deactivated, otherwise it also have an ability to take the probe DNA. So the deactivation, otherwise we can call it as the saturation of the nitrocellulose paper, should be done. So next is the addition of the probe DNA, which is complementary in nature, and we do the hybridization process. So after performing the hybridization, we will detect the gene of interest by an autoradiography technique or a fluorescent technique, and the band which is showing identified in the duplicate gel electrophoresis, we can isolate the gene of interest. So this is the basic steps involved in the southern blotting technique. That is, the first is the separation of the DNA by gel electrophoresis. Second is the pre-treatment of the gel. So in the pre-treatment, we help to separate the DNA into two single stranded form. Then the transfer of the single stranded DNA into the nitrocellulose paper we call as blotting. Then we do the deactivation or saturation of the nitrocellular paper, so the probe DNA doesn't anneal to other part of the nitrocellular paper except the complementary strand. Then the final one is the addition of the probe DNA and perform the hybridization process, and finally the detection of gene of interest. So this I have illustrated with a diagram, as you can see in the PowerPoint. So the first you can see represents a picture, that is a DNA sample has been cut with a restriction enzyme. We use different types of restriction enzyme. In this we have put 3 lands, that is 1, 2 and 3. So 1 is the marker DNA and 2 and 3 has been restricted with different restriction enzymes, consider enzyme A and B. So after this, what we are doing is we are running the gel electrophoresis. So once I run the gel electrophoresis, we will get the different bands, and these different bands can be visualized with a UV light once it has been added with an ethidium bromide, right? Then next is we are constructing a blotting pyramid. So the blotting pyramid is basically an idea of transfer of this double-stranded DNA into a single-stranded form into the nitrocellulose paper. So after the pre-treatment of the gel and construction of this blotting pyramid, this has been transferred to the nitrocellulose paper. And this nitrocellulose paper is dried, then it is packed in a sealed container, and respective buffers has been added. Generally sodium citrate buffer is added and the probe DNA is added, and it is incubated for a respectable period of time, so that the hybridization process will happen, then the base is complementary to each other. So once the hybridized this paper is taken out, then it is overlay on a X-ray film and a photograph of the autoradiography is taken. So once we taken an X-ray autoradiography, we will get the bands which is the probe DNA complementary strand exists. In this way we can identify the gene of interest. This is a simple illustration how the southern blotting techniques works. Now we go one by one step. The first step is the running of gel electrophoresis, that is after restricting the enzymes, what we do is we run the gel electrophoresis in duplicate, and we keep both the things. One is kept as a for analyzing the after the end of the southern blotting techniques to isolate the gene of interest, and the another one is used for the southern blotting technique. So in the next step is the pre-treatment of the gel. So what was the purpose of the pre-treatment of the gel is that, so the DNA exists in double-stranded form. So our objective is that we have to break this double-stranded DNA into a single-stranded DNA. So how we can do is, what we will do by soaking the gel into an alkali. So this alkali, what it will do is it breaks the hydrogen bonds between the complementary base pair. Thereby it converts the double-stranded DNA into two single-stranded DNA. So if exposure of this alkali exists more a time, then apart from breaking the hydrogen bond, it will strong enough to start breaking the phosphodiester bond also. So to avoid this alkali should be neutralized by the addition of the acid. And in this process of this pre-treatment, what we are getting as an end product is that the two double-stranded DNA has been separated into a two single-stranded DNA. So after the pre-treatment, the next step is the blotting. So blotting is nothing but the transfer of this single-stranded DNA into the nitrocellulose paper. So how it is performed, we can see with an expectation of a figure. As you can see, the blotting pyramid is constructed like that. It is the gel is placed inside a tray, and in the tray it is filled with a transferring buffer. Then over that, what we will keep is the nitrocellulose paper. Then after the nitrocellulose paper, we will keep a pack of filter papers around 7 to 8. Then we will keep 3 to 4 cloths. Then we will keep a glass. Then finally a weight of about 1 kilogram if appropriate as you feel. So this construction is like a pyramid. That means a tray containing the transferring buffer. In that we will keep the gel. In the gel, above that we will keep the nitrocellulose paper. Above that we will keep a series of filter paper. Then we will keep a cloth. Then a straight glass slide. then over that we will keep a weight, and in this condition we will keep for few minutes. Because of the capillary action, what will happen is that the two single stranded DNA which has been separated because of the action of alkali, because of the capillary action of this transferring buffer, it will take the single stranded DNA and it attaches with the nitrocellulose paper, and the buffer is absorbed through the filter paper and the cloth. So during this process, the fragment, that is the single stranded DNA molecule, is adheres to the nitrocellulose paper. This adhering is called as otherwise we call as a blotting. So in this process, the care should be taken that the nitrocellulose paper and your gel should not move. So it should be kept in the same place. So otherwise, if we move it, so what happens is that the location of the identification of gene of interest will get varied. So the position should be kept in a same position, and the entire process should be further carried out so we can identify the exact gene of interest. So after the blotting, what we have to do is, now the nitrocellulose paper has an ability to take up the DNA at anywhere. So nowadays the nitrocellulose paper on further processing gets damaged. It has been nowadays replaced with nylon paper also. So the nitrocellulose paper, after that we have to get saturated. That means apart from the DNA strand which is transferred, the other areas should be deactivated or saturated with some non-specific DNA fragments, so that it doesn't take up the probe DNA. So after the saturation of this nitrocellulose paper, then what we will do is we will keep in a polythene cover. Then we will fill with the buffer which helps in the annealing of this radio labeled DNA. So before getting into the process, we will understand what is meant by a probe DNA or a labeling of DNA. So generally, once we understand the gene of interest, what we need is we need to construct a complementary DNA strand. That construction of this complementary DNA strand we call as a probe DNA. So this construction can be done with two basic methods. One is the addition of the label, which may be a radio labeled one, at the end of the intact DNA molecule. So we take an intact DNA molecule, then we will attach at the end. That is one the process. And the second process is we will synthesize the DNA by incorporation of the radio labeled one or a fluorescence dye on each and every step. That means we can synthesize this probe DNA in two steps, two ways. That is, one is the addition of the radio labeled isotope at the intact DNA molecule, otherwise labeling by incorporation method. So for example, we will take the first step, that is the radio labeling at the terminal DNA molecule, so which is generally performed in an intact molecule. For example, if we consider an enzyme called polynucleotide kinase, which is simply adds a radioactive gamma phosphate from an ATP to 5-hydroxyl group of the DNA. So this is the simple way how we can act the radio labeled gamma isotope phosphate into the terminal part of the 5-hydroxyl group of the DNA molecule. This is one way we can do it, the radio labeling. And second is labeling by incorporation. So the labeling by incorporation is that we have to synthesize a new DNA in presence of the labeled precursor. So what we'll do is we will first produce different types of radio labeled deoxy NTPs, that is deoxy ATP, TTP or CTP, which is generally radio labeled one, and the preferred radio labeling compound is the phosphorus 32. Precursors is generally used. And how we can synthesize this one is, this can be synthesized with the help of a PCR, and it produces a short length oligonucleotide of the DNA with the help of the DNA polymerase enzyme, and we will extend it until we get a required length of the probe DNA. This is the two ways how we can synthesize a probe DNA. After we got a probe DNA, what we will do is we will add this probe DNA into the nitrocellulose paper which is carrying the single strand of DNA. So we will add the probe DNA into that paper in presence of the buffer. So what happened is this: the probe DNA is generally the complementary sequence of the gene of interest, so it will get attached once we provide an appropriate condition. So because the chance is that the probe DNA can only attach to the gene of interest, the reason is that because all the non-specific binding sites of the membrane is occupied with unrelated DNA, so the probe DNA can only anneal once it encounters a complementary DNA strand which is transferred during the blotting technique into the nitrocellulose membrane. So the next step is the hybridization. So after we add the probe DNA, so we have to wait for some period of time so that the hybridization, that is the annealing between the complementary strands, can occur. So generally the hybridization is possible only in the area where there is rich in G and C content, that is the guanine and cytosine content. Where it is rich, the hybridization nature is possible. One. Second is the hybridization is done in presence of a standardized buffer called standard sodium citrate buffer, which helps in the maintaining the ionic strength enough for the hybridization point, and the hybridization generally done at an appropriate temperature. This is needed a stringency in the approach because the temperature can vary between 45 to 65 degrees Celsius, because this temperature helps in the process of annealing, and the perfect annealing will depends upon this temperature. So after this one, the radio labeled DNA, that is our probe DNA, binds or comes very close to the single stranded DNA bound to the membrane. Then in presence of this buffer, what happened is that it started getting annealed, and the time required for the annealing is typically depends upon the length of the DNA molecule, and generally it is exposed to some around 12 hours or a overnight temp time, so the perfect annealing can be possible. So after the hybridization, what we have to do is we have to remove the excess of the probe DNA, because the probe DNA carries the radio labeled isotopes. So while we go for the detection, it will get interfere with our detection process. So the washing of the probe DNA should be done. The washing is done in such a manner that it removes all the probe DNA, and which is also not specifically bound with some other complementary content. If the probe DNA is partially complementary to some of the DNA strands, if it binds, that also should be removed during the washing process. So the washing process is generally done 3 or 4 times to ensure the complete removal of this probe DNA. So after washing, so what we are doing is the detection of the DNA molecule. So the detection of the gene of interest is based on the binding of this probe DNA with the complementary strands of the DNA. So in this, while we talk about the detection, it depends upon the probe DNA by which it has been attached. The probe DNA can be attached with a fluorescent dye or a radioactive labeled dye. Consider, if a DNA has been labeled with a fluorescence precursors, it can be easily identified by illuminating under a UV light. So UV light of an appropriate wavelength can be identified the DNA because of the fluorescent nature of the dye. So by this fluorescence we can identify. One is the basic process that can be done. Otherwise, most commonly used technique is the detection with an autoradiography. So what happened is this radioactive DNA, which has been the probe DNA, will be taken into the X-ray flame or with the help of a photomultiplier tube. We can be excited with the beta particles emitted by this phosphorus 32 or the sulfur 35. So out of this, once it emits the beta particle, the background becomes a blackened and it is taken with an X-ray flame. So what we can do is, once after taking this flame, the band which is darkened can be superimposed on the gel electrophoresis where we got the band. It is the gene of interest. This is how the detection process has happened. So in this way we can identify the gene of interest with the southern blotting technique. So after this, thinking about what is southern blotting technique and what is the principle behind it and what is the practical procedure or approach we can do in the southern blotting technique. So it is important to understand what are the various applications this southern blotting technique is having. So this southern blotting technique is primarily used for the identify the specific DNA in a DNA sample. That was the prime objective why the southern blotting technique has been identified. So nowadays the southern blotting technique also used for the detection process also. So we used to detect the particular the RNA sequence or DNA sequence of a virus or a bacteria also through this hybridization technique. So it is also helps to identify the gene of interest and isolate a particular DNA from a mixture of DNA. Then this is also used in RFLPs of southern in mapping of several genome. So while we identify the reading frames of these RFLPs, so what we can do is we can map a genome of a bacteria or a cell. So this blotting technique also helps to understand the mutations which is happen in a gene or a genetic rearrangement which is happened during a neonatal diseased condition or a genetic diseased cases. Due to the precision of this DNA identification technique, it is also used for the construction of the phylogenetic tree of a particular enzyme or particular DNA sequence or genomic sequence, especially in identification of the paternity or maternity analysis, and also it is used in the forensic studies and a person identification also. So southern blotting technique is is also, finally I can finish with this, the southern blotting technique is also used for the elucidation of the restriction enzyme maps. So I will thank you very much for your patient listening to this southern blotting technique. It is an excellent technique, especially used for the identification of gene of interest. So I thank you very much for your support, and I will continue my lecture in future series about various aspects of the gene cloning strategy. Thank you.